The following episode is brought to you by Whipster. Whipster team accounts aren't just a place to manage review and approvals. They're a project management, archiving, and internal communication tool as well. Learn how your video team can work better together at Whipster.com.
You're listening to Filmmakers Drinking Bourbon. Hey, what's up, Internet? This is Brandon.
And this is Adam.
And where's Alex?
Oh, that guy's busy.
He's actually on set as we speak. He's been wrapping up a big shoot this week. So, Adam, I meant Alex, not Adam. You're in the room.
Hey.
Alex, this cheers is for you, buddy.
Hey, for Alex. Yeah, and hopefully the stuff he's shooting looks good.
That smells good.
This is it's the FDB exclusive bourbon.
That's the FDB exclusive. Yeah. It's been aging in our leftover bourbon stock room. So every now and again, when we have a down week where we don't have a partner on the show, we like to drink some special sauce from the cabinet.
I gotta say, the single barrels tend to disappear a lot quicker.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
The bottle's a little.
The plastic bottles seem to always be full.
Yeah, somehow. though, what was not that we need to get deep into the bourbon, but there was the plastic bottle that ranked above the rest.
Yeah.
I forget the brand.
There's some good stuff out there.
It's like Benchmark or something.
Yeah, Benchmark's good.
Yeah.
So speaking of bourbon, you're a bourbon guy. It's been a while since you've been on the show.
Well, it's been busy. I mean, almost. I said this past month aside. So 8 weeks ago,
right?
About 8 weeks ago, I had my third child.
Congrats!
Thank you. In the middle of that, we're in the middle of a reality show here.
Yeah.
So the reality show happened at the same time, and at the same time as my daughter was born. And poor Bart got dropped into the fire on that, and totally stood up and did his job and did well amongst a crew and slew of producers.
Yeah. Didn't you say it had like 9 cameras?
Oh no, yeah, at least. So I think on the
that means there's 18 tracks of audio, right?
Oh, more than that, because there was a multi-track band.
Oh yeah.
So there's like a band performance. There's all these cameras. I think I got up to 12. I think for the final. There's like a big live show. It was glorious. It was great. It was a really. I mean, and honestly, it was. We were happy to be a part of it and. To bring it it's for a pilot, and hopefully we'll have news when it.
So is it in general terms? I know you're under the non-disclosure, but is it a cooking show? Is it a music show?
Music.
So it's a music show. All right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable with our involvement as we were if it weren't music.
Sure.
It had all the right pieces for
cool.
something that we'd definitely love to dive into.
Nice.
So yeah, it was cool. It was a good challenging project, and it was. I think getting a storyline together on something like that is the biggest challenge, and I think we did well, and we're getting good feedback now on it. So we'll see how it goes.
That's great.
We'll see if it gets picked up. We'll see if it gets bought. It's in the hands of lots of people who know how to talk that talk at this point, and
nice.
We'll see. Yeah, but man, it went from that to we have a feature length going on, and our project with the commercial.
Exactly. You've been slam-a-jamma.
It's been insane. So yeah, I have not been around as much. My house and or sessions at times.
Nice. So when you get a chance to enjoy a nice bourbon, you take it up.
I hit it up while I start vacation after this episode.
Wonderful.
So I start vacation now as of like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, you are now on vacation.
Yeah, I'm leaning back.
That's what we like to think about the show. It's kind of like a vacation. Yeah. For a short period of time on your way to or from set.
Yeah.
Or any other time. So speaking of bourbon, what's your go? You got any new bourbons you've been checking out, or what's your go-to?
My go-to's always been Woodford.
It's a good bourbon.
Way back when. I gotta say, really early on, the family history-wise, my side of the family, or my mom's side of the family drinks Manhattans.
Right.
My dad's always made a Manhattan, like when he gets home from work on Friday, you can hear him come in, you hear the ice hit the glass, and you have a Manhattan happening. So I was taught how to make Manhattans at a really young age.
Nice.
And not like it's hard, right? It's 2 bourbon, 1 vermouth, and
right.
and I think I'd get kicked out of my family if I put bitters in any of their Manhattans, but I'll do it in mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that was always well There wasn't anything spectacular that was ever going into those. But once I got old enough to have one, and had one with some good bourbon in it, like at a bar one night. I went, I say good. I mean, it's just like Maker's Mark, but it's not JTS Brown or even like Bourbon Deluxe. And not that those are bad. I still buy all of those, but to drink it on its own, it's a little harsh. And then that happened. I'm like, well, what would it be like without that? And then the whole the whole problem of bourbon started.
Then you just taste real bourbon, good bourbon.
And that's it. Yeah. So Woodford's it. I'll keep Basil Hayden's at home.
Nice
as well for people who don't need something with that much bite. And I think I always have a bottle of Blanton's at the house.
Yeah.
So and that's for special occasions.
Good times, special times. Like a child's birth.
That's right. Yeah. So I had a bottle. I actually had a bottle. The bottle that I drank on not that I drank the whole bottle the day I got married. Probably me and my wife drank the whole bottle the day we got married. But it was dated the day of my birthday, which was nice. So like hand numbered. I'm like, hey.
That's pretty cool, man.
So those are my three: Woodford, Basil Hayden,
nice,
and Bland.
That's good, man. Yeah. I've enjoyed a bunch of different ones that have been on the show, and have enjoyed always trying out new stuff. I got a bottle of Wathins at home. It's like a 8-year.
Yeah.
It's
Wathins.
Yeah. It's like some sort of the guy at a little liquor shop I go to every now and again recommended it, and it's okay. It's good. It's not extremely drinkable. You know what I mean by drinkable?
It's a sipper, right?
Well, yeah. It's not like you're not just throwing these back. Like it's not that kind of sweet, tasty, sort of easy to drink. It's like it's kind of like like Grandpa a little bit. Like it's like a throwback. It's a little gritty. You gotta sometimes you gotta grit and bear it a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's good.
So I take it it's high proof, burns probably pretty much.
Yeah, but it's just I don't know. It's not as smooth as I was expecting. So it's lasted longer than most bottles of bourbon in my house.
Yeah. I mean, that's my issue is anything like the Basil Hayden's, right? It's a lower proof.
It's like drinking water.
Yeah, and if you go from like I'm gonna have myself a nice glass of Blanton's, and when I can do that, it's no rocks, no nothing.
Yeah.
It's in a glass. It's warm. It's wonderful. But my great grandpa when I was little, and I didn't understand this at the time, and I found myself doing this to my child the other day. I had just gotten to a family party, and usually there's a batch of Manhattan someone has made sitting somewhere in a fridge maybe, and I had a glass and I drank it, and my great grandpa used to do the same thing. He took his first sip, and then he would trace down his neck through his chest to his stomach and go like doo 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 and trace the burn down to his stomach. And I caught myself doing that the other day to my son. I'm like, oh God, I should probably think twice about doing this. But it's the thing that happens with Blanton's or anything like really high proof. You take that first sip and you're like, ooh,
yeah.
All right.
The family tradition.
That's right. Yeah.
Son, let me teach you how to savor a good bourbon. So that's good.
If this doesn't happen, the proof is way too low for if you're drinking it straight up. So
that's fun. So what else have you been up to, man? What you've been working hard, but what do you had? So have you had any leisure time? Have you been able to watch any shows or movies or?
Not tons. I mean, it's I gotta think if watching wise. Aside from always the kids shows, right? The kids shows are always popping up.
You got lots of kids,
It's
don't you?
always like Super Wide, Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas and Ferb's amazing. Yeah, we've had this discussion.
Yeah, that's the best.
Great show.
Yeah, not tons. I mean, I've always been a fan of Walking Dead, but that's gone for a while.
Yeah,
and
I can't. I didn't get in on it, but I was interested to maybe check it out. And where do you watch it? Is it on Hulu? Is it on Netflix? Because I have the AMC app, and we're borrowing our code, from the in-laws. We like to think we're helping them get their money's worth,
right?
Because they wouldn't stream. They're not streaming it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the AMC app it only streams like
2 episodes
behind the scenes
really?
Or something weird.
Well, we had it on Dish Network is what I've got at home, and. Yeah, I've mixed feelings at times about it, but the one thing it does do is there's always free rentals of whatever season that you're on.
Gotcha.
So you could go back to the beginning of the season and catch up on the whole thing. And chances are you could probably even go back. Well, as often as it airs, you could probably DVR everything. that quick.
But I've heard good things about it. The main guy from that show has another show on AMC all about like motorcycle riding. Like he goes on these like little travel adventures.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I can't watch it anywhere.
My whole world changed, and my whole perspective about that show changed when I realized he was the guy from Love Actually. And my everything. I was beside myself when I realized he was the guy holding the signs in Love Actually, and I'm like, oh my, oh no! Like I'm gonna see that every time. He's gonna hold up a sign like "Hate zombies," put it down. Like I kill them often. Put it down. I love you as well. It spun me around when that happened.
Yeah, so I want to check that out.
It's good.
Yeah, I watched with my daughter. We like to watch documentaries together. She's a big Harry Potter fan, and we watched this documentary. Let me pull up the name of it real quick because I don't want to mess it up. But it's like Mudbloods, a film about Quidditch. It's about real life Quidditch.
What? That's a thing?
Quidditch? It's a thing. They play in universities, colleges, UCLA, Yale, MIT. All these colleges have real Quidditch teams where they run around a field. They have brooms between their legs, so one hand always has to be on a broom between your legs. The other hand, it's a one-handed game. The other hand uses to catch the ball. So there's 3 hoops. It's just like Quidditch. The little flying ball. Have you seen Harry Potter? Yeah. So the little flying.
There's something
it's
about
amazing.
A visual about somebody holding a stick between their legs.
Yes, it's amazing. But here's the thing: it's no joke. Like they're like hitting each other. I'm surprised no one's been impaled.
No way.
It's like rough. There's the little ball that flies around. There's a name for it. It is a person who's dressed in yellow, and then they put a tennis ball in a sock that hangs off of their butt, and if you grab it, that means you've caught it. So, and they're allowed to go anywhere they want in the like on campus. They can go hide in a tree wherever they want, and then the seekers have to go find it. And then there's a red ball, which is like kickballs. Those are used to play defense. I don't know. It's crazy. It's amazing. So the documentary follows the journey of UCLA's team all the way to the World Cup.
There's a World Cup?
Yes, in New York. This was they're on like year 6 or 7 of the World Cup. But the 5th year they had the World Cup, there was over 100 teams from 100 different schools, plus like 5 international teams that played, and it like gets hardcore.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So does it die? So I need to learn more. So does this?
Mudbloods.
Do they dive into like different broom types?
Is
there strategy?
No, it doesn't
that?
get too deep in. I mean, it gets deep into the game, but like it's more about the people. It's more about the community of like, hey, here's this group who started taking something that was a fantasy, and they're like, let's do it to be silly and have fun. And then all of a sudden, people were like, this is actually pretty fun. And then it started to formalize. And so really, it's more of the story about like how this group of, especially the UCLA team, how they've bonded. And there's like sort of like your common freaks and geeks that would play Quidditch. But then there's like, the girl who was on the soccer team and she saw him doing it and thought it looked fun and she joined in. And so there's like a bunch of just like, your standard college kids that are playing that have come to find out that their stereotypes were wrong. All these people are really cool. They've made best friends out of it. It's a really cool little piece. It's fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So if you're into Harry Potter, you'll love it. If you're not into Harry Potter and you think it's stupid, you'll still really like it, and I think you'll have a new respect for a certain group of people and lovers of fantasy fiction, which I'm not a big fan because I don't like robes.
That's like all robes.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of robes going on, but
it's like only robes.
But my daughter loves it, so as a dad, you take an interest in what your kids take an interest.
So
so that was cool.
My only foothill on that is getting over you have to hold on to the broom.
Oh, dude, it's wicked. It's crazy.
That's
crazy. Only it's the one-handed game. It's you're playing with one hand.
Can't you just play?
The other hand's on the broom.
Can't you just like have your hand at your side?
No,
and use that one hand.
No, you got to because the broom's what makes you fly, man.
I know that. Man.
So that's pretty interesting. We watched that.
That's outstanding.
And then my son's obsessed with American Ninja Warrior.
My 5-year-old as well.
We watch it all the time on Hulu. He loves it.
Yeah,
he thinks it's the coolest thing ever happened. He always wants to do an obstacle course. He's like. Him and his buddy next door are like training to get on American Ninja Warrior.
And what a good positive thing to go after.
It is a cool show.
Yeah.
And the backstories are great. I mean, heartbreaking. Everyone's crying in the room. Here's this kid who takes care of his sister who's about to die, and he's doing it for her. And you're like, everyone's crying, and you're like, oh, I want him to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
They do it so well.
And and the other thing, they do a good job of sort of the female empowerment side of it. And I think it's cool. My daughter watching it, here's these, these girls are just as good as the dudes that are making it to the top of the warped wall. Yeah,
it's in those class of rock climbing. That the gender barrier isn't that bad.
Right.
It's not like it's not a very measurable thing. It's did you get to the top? Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet. We're all just people.
Yeah. Balance is pretty equalizing. Like either you have balance or you don't.
Yeah. There are some things in that show that just the nature of the obstacles sometimes that you realize the person who's 5'4" is not going to win.
Yeah.
They're not going to. They're just the length of their legs is not going to allow this to happen.
Right.
And you're not going to get through that obstacle. And it's like, man. That's the only time where you're like, well, that person really isn't going to make it. But they also don't, the T-Rex barrier recently was broken on that show too.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big thing, I think, for broadcast in general.
Yeah.
So now T-Rexes can
make it happen. Yeah. Well, it was pretty cool. It's been fun to watch, but yeah. So what about work, man? So we talked about a couple different things, but we've been jamming on a project together. So.
We have. This is so and I think I've probably told you this. This project is my when all other projects have a bump or terrible, I go, at least I have the music job that I can look forward to.
Well, and not only that, but this project, this client, this agency, everything that has to do with the project that we've talked about on the show before, the University of Cincinnati project, it's just gone so well. From ideation all the way to post-production, just everybody's communicated clearly. Expectations have been met.
Yeah.
Anything anyone has promised, they've delivered on, from casting all the way through. And it's just been a joy to really share a vision together. And I feel like what's been great is everyone held the vision very close to their chest, and no one ever strayed away from the vision. And I think that's what's got us to this place, which is it's a beautiful, beautiful spot. We're through color correction now. We got approvals on all the color, and now it's in your hands. The final phase in your hands. So I'll set it up. So Adam, when we kind of co-pitched this project together, and we said, hey, we're definitely doing an original score. That's all there is to it. And so. This is the last day of tape filming, and Adam was in the midst of sending me the demos, and I was on set, and I heard the demos, and there was one track that I immediately was drawn to and fell in love with, and called Adam back and said, "Here's the track," and I said, "Stop working on the other tracks," and I said, "I'm gonna basically tell the client that they have no choice, and this is what we're doing because it's in my heart," and then. I think you shared some of those sentiments with me. Obviously, the other tracks were good too, but this one just was the right track. And so we pushed forth, and the client loved it. And so catch us up to speed. So describe this track a little bit. Maybe we could sample a little bit of it. I don't know.
We might be able to toss some stuff in. It's not so right now. So it's in still demo rough form. It's a temp track, and that whole process in itself is strategic and political. There's demo-itis is one thing that happens all the time, and it started to happen to me on this one. And I'm glad I kind of iterated out of the first demo a little bit, to keep that from. So and you guys have probably all had this happen where you edit something together to a track, and you've heard it so many times, you start to fall in love with it, even though it's not finished or it's not the final thing. And then once the final thing does happen, it doesn't deliver to the expectation of where you've been.
Yeah.
And or it's like over the top, far. It pushes farther, but maybe too far. And the demo is the one that everyone likes that gets pushed back to. That's demo-itis.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always a fear of all right, if demo is so far away. Oh God, you're in trouble, right?
I think that's because it becomes like a familiar friend, right? It's like you meet this lovable, Aunt Judy that you didn't know you had, and she comes in and she has on the sweater and her hair, and then the next time you meet her, she's got different color hair, she's not wearing the sweater, and you're like, wait a second. what happened to charming little Aunt Judy? That's kind of a weird metaphor, but
no, but
you know.
it's exactly it. You get you get used to hearing it one way.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's right. So
Yeah.
I mean, if your message is consistent and persistent, and if it's good, that's going to be a good thing. So it sticks, and that's the
Right.
one thing about this track. It's a simple melody that we know sticks and we know works. And we won't be getting away from that in the final.
Sure.
It's just going to be swapping it out with
Right.
with real people. Right now, the rough's hilarious because
So-
it's all Adam.
So yeah, it is all your voice. So let's dissect it a little bit.
Yeah.
Me and you sat down. We looked at the creative, which is communicating that the experience at the University of Cincinnati is all about experiential learning. It's not about being in the classroom. It's about being out in the world.
Do more.
And we've got a lot of visuals that connect that and talk about that.
Yeah.
So me and you sat down, and I had some initial thoughts that I threw your way. You had some initial thoughts. There were some places where those thoughts overlapped, but the real key thing that we needed to come through in the music was we needed to celebrate what we call the urban core, because the University of Cincinnati is not in the country. It's not on this secluded campus with green pastures. It's in the city.
Yeah.
And you can be, you're a block or two away from downtown in the core business district, and you're also a couple blocks away from, places that aren't as, highly financially driven, more poverty stricken. It's a city. It's a real city, and we wanted that to come through. Was one. Two, we wanted to preserve the nature of what it means to go to a university. Sort of that traditional.
And I think the biggest part of the pitch was the jumping off point is the threshold crossing. It's what it means, what that decision means
Right.
to choose something
Exactly.
and choose your own path.
So how did you approach it? What was your, for those listening, this month we're talking about post-production. Obviously, music, audio is a big part of it. Let's just kind of delve into your process. You were given a task. You had the creative.
Yep.
Where do you start? Do you just listen to a bunch of music? Where do you even go? This music is so broad, you could have gone anywhere with it.
And it's so subjective too, it depends on the listener, right? So I think early on when we started talking, we started, in my world, in the work that we do for brands, it's balancing the brand's character attributes versus the target consumer's attributes and what their expectations are. So it's balancing what we're trying to tell them versus what they're accustomed to hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking between, say, asking someone from a university level to first off, listen to me, I'm current and I'm relevant, and what we've got, and in a way, so you treat it with the contemporary side to say this is who we are, but then you're not just talking to a high school senior here. You're talking to either, if they're writing their own check, is one thing. So if they're business minded, if they're going to be staring down the barrel of student loans, they need to know that they're going to be able to pay those off. If their parents are involved, footing the bill, they need to know that this institution is for real and that they're going to be getting a return on their investment, or not a return on their investment, but at least the confidence in knowing that education is going to be
Right.
locked up. So knowing that, who we're talking to, it's a tough divide, right? Because you're talking to...
Because what's popular might be some bubblegum pop that isn't very trustworthy.
Right. So right away, I went to, in our conversations we were talking, and, there's lots of metrics and non-creative things that I'll turn to at times where I feel like I might be out of touch. So I'll turn to some metrics and say, all right, so what's tracking now? What's trending? What are the alt charts in college radio? What's college radio looking like? And not even college, but like, what are we looking at in alts and, on the alt charts? I do some other geeky things too. I look at where this ad might be running in other cities, and there's some metrics I can look at there and say, hey, who's getting the plays down here? Who's at the bottom of the chart and rising? What's happening down here on these lower levels? But then the biggest piece of it is honestly knowing, that it's all going to ascend to a certain level at some point in time.
Right.
And it's all going to have to exist at this big contemporary level. So, shortly after it, and I looked at a few of the markets that they said that they would be,
Right. It was
be
like
in.
DC, Atlanta.
And Spotify has some cool reports you can look at too. That's kind of fun. They don't have as much detail as some other ones, but so I started looking at all that, and you started to see the trend, and it started to like reinforce my gut. It started to
Right.
reinforce my we're going to talk to high school seniors. I'm like 21 Pilots,
Right, right.
And, they totally got that nailed right now. We didn't end there. Actually,
Right.
we ended far from there.
Yeah.
But
by the
right
way,
away,
it's totally. We just joined a community pool, and it was funny. We were swimming the other day, and there was all of these like middle schooler and high schoolers, and they're all just like, "If you could turn back time to the good," and they're like,
you guys don't even know what stressed out is yet. I can't say that. Believe me,
So anyway, it's funny, but those guys are hitting a stride that for some reason a lot of youth are saying, "Yeah, that's it.
They're great."
That's our message." So anyway, so you had a couple references that you were liking to. You probably ruled out a bunch of things early. Like you probably were like, "This is probably not going to be a heavy metal track."
Yeah, no, and honestly, with the way we were talking, there was a really tough position on this one, because in what I would rather do, not that this is bad, but a lot of times aiming for disruption for your client, a lot of times aiming to cut through noise is not going to be on equity. It's not going to be something that that is of their brand, and that's a problem, because people are going to think, what the spot you created, maybe it's effective, but it's not going to do anything good for them. This was different, because this is them saying, this is who we are as a brand, and let's be a little disruptive. So it was really cool from top down that everyone said, this is the way we want to go about this. So a big audit happened, and you did a big audit on who else was in a space. I did an audit on how to communicate that from an emotional level. And we ended in a space that was much farther away from anything I expected on this. Yeah. But it ties the track. The track ends up bridging a divide in a very traditional sense with a collegiate feel, through the use of certain marching band textures.
All right, so you got beats, very rhythmic.
Very, very rhythmic. Very rhythmic, and soon to get... I haven't even talked to you about this. I had a wonderful conversation today about with our drum line that's going to be coming in. And
let's a side note on that. So the cool thing about the music Adam's producing for this project is it's going to feature the drum line from the university and a choir.
Yeah.
So everything about it's very authentic, really cool. So we've got a drum line, beats, and then also a choir.
Yeah.
What else? What are the other elements?
In a perfect world, it's going to stop there. But I think there might be a couple things I'll have to use to bring it back. Because I think I'm going to be able to utilize the choir for things you won't realize the choir is.
Right.
I think I'll be able to do some modulation, some really fun stuff that'll keep it as, how do I utilize this? I can't say minimal amount of voicings, right? Because I'll have all sorts of wonderful drums getting trucked into this
So
place.
you think you can do this whole track with a choir and drums?
I think so.
Wow.
There might be a couple tricks, because there's one sound in it that I've used this whole time that you thought was a tuba.
Yeah, I thought it was a tuba, but it was like a dubstep.
It's straight up,
thing.
It's like this wobble synth that does a wonderful thing at one point that I would love to get out of that synth world and figure out a way to do it organically and keep it. And I love working within rules. I like making myself rules. I love making myself style rules.
I like
guidelines.
that. I like that.
It's
I like that. Maybe it was like
It was like this wow thing that happened in the beat, in everything, and yeah. So, but where it came from. So to bridge that divide, like really, we're going to use a choir and a drum line to come up with something. And what's great is the idea. When you look down at the barrel of a project, right? If you look at something that you're going after, and I'm usually extremely positive about most projects that come in. I usually have an idea, or at least if I have to embrace the ambiguity of something, I'm willing and ready to accept that and be fluid. This one was one that slowly bubbled to where it was, and it got to a point where we know how to voice this, and it all. Whenever I write, it doesn't happen sitting at a piano. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen as I'm like sitting behind the console. It happens, when you're walking down the street or you're just doing something. And that melody line pops, and you go, I got to explore that. Like that needs to make sense. And this one happened when So you've done all the discovery. You've got the brief. You have an understanding where it goes. Now all you have to do is like bring it to life somehow. And and I think with a lot of writers, that's the moment of anxiety could pop in. You're like, but what is it? And then if you let the anxiety blow up too much, then you have like writer's block, and you're like, I'm useless. I'm never going to make this happen. So just keep calm and realize it'll happen. And I was putting my son to sleep one night, and I read him a book, and I'm rocking him to sleep, and the melody happened in my head, and I panicked because I realized that I'm going to be sitting there rocking him for the next half hour. And there's no way I'm going to be able to like put it on my phone without waking him up or without disrupting this bedtime routine. So I had to hum it to him as we rocked in a chair for half an hour. I hummed it and I sorted out the melody as I'm putting him to sleep.
Sure.
And finally he's asleep. And I could still humming it to him, and I said,
And
like,
the whole piece is written.
Yeah, I like hum it. And I put him in his crib, slowly step out of the room, and I literally dashed downstairs to where it was just where my phone was, just so I could hum it on something I could record real quick. And my wife looked at me like I had 3 heads. She's like, "What are you?" I'm like, "I had an idea. I think I got it. I got the melody now."
That's awesome.
She's like, "For what?" "Oh, there's a job. There's a job that we're working on."
That's great, man. So I think now, if it's anything less than just drums and choir, I'm going to be let down.
It's if the wobble might be
Gauntlet
there.
thrown.
I know. Well, it's always the greatest conversation that's happened earlier today when I'm talking to the director of what was the director? He's a director of percussion for the university who's going to be coming in and kind of spearheading that side of it. So he's got my piece that I wrote, and I'm not, the reason I hire out an awful lot is because I can get close and I can say, here's what I want to do, and I'm not going to go after big, massive arrangement ideas in a demo. You just get the idea out there, and then if it's up to me to bring it to life when it's time to record it for real, then bring it to life then. But when you bring somebody in, then they've got ideas too.
Yeah,
so
you want their magic.
Yeah, so his magic is coming to life this week when he's like, "This is great. Would you want to hear?" And then insert all these extra things that he's like, "I could hear this here," and I'm like, "Whoa, let's sort through these. Hang on a sec." And he's kind of taking my starting point, and he's gonna. And I told him to push it too far, and we'll just rein it back when we get here, and we'll find what's right. And I told him, a couple spots that here's what I would do here, and he's like, "Oh, here's what's happening that's relevant in the marching band world right now." And I'm like, this is great.
That's cool.
Yeah. So he's going to take his influences and inevitably, we're all going to have to push and pull a little bit to make sure that it's appropriate. But I feel like he got it right away, which was good. And it's always nice to have to work by yourself. I can't. I can, but I will inevitably take my piece and put it in front of somebody else and say, at least give me feedback before anyone hears it.
Well, and I think that's, especially when you get into post, whether it's music or film, you relying on, just like during production, when you're on set, there's a specialist for everything, right?
Yeah.
You got guys that are just camera, pulling focus, just lights, et cetera. And that same should be true for post. I mean, I think, if you try to wear too many hats, you just don't get where you need to go. So, on the post side of things, we worked with Brandon Kramer on color. There's, certain limits, certain things I can do, using the color suite in Premiere. And I could have, probably made it look better than the log footage. But, when you have the resources and the projects right, you bring in experts. Yeah. And so, sitting and letting those people do their jobs. And so this was the first project I did with Brandon, and he was like, we were kind of talking like, how do you like to work? And I said, well, the way I like to work is I like to let people do what they're great at. And then, when you get to something that's show worthy, then I'll give you my opinion. Like, yes, no, this, that, like, I'm good at that, but I don't want to be over your shoulder telling you, no, slow down. Oh, over there, that sort of thing. And I think you do a good job of that. You're always willing to bring people in and kind of mess with things. So is that how long? When's this thing going down? When's the tracking going down?
After vacation.
All right.
Yeah. So tracking. So I've got 2 days. It's a very busy week. So I'll have 2 days of tracking for this, and then we'll have sound design and mix for all the spots happening after that. So what do we have? A 60 and a 30.
Yep.
That'll be happening, and typically the 30 is pretty close to a lift from the 60. Not, I mean,
They're different here.
I share like 15 seconds, I think, on the back of this. But everything else is pretty unique. So
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm really happy about that. God, the track is great. I love it. I'm not humble about this one.
Yeah, it's
It
good.
is an
It's
awesome
fun.
track.
Yeah.
And I'll be talking about it for a year.
Yeah, it's been good, and we've had a great response. So, I think that's if you're listening, the things that the takeaway, if you dug anything out of our conversation is, this idea that things don't just happen overnight. Sometimes they kind of build, and I think I liked what Adam said about just because you don't have it now doesn't mean it's not working in your brain.
Yeah.
It's just because you don't have the solution today doesn't mean that you don't have the solution. It just hasn't come out yet.
Or maybe you don't have enough input.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have enough to go off of to understand what it is. So I mean, the amount of this is 2 commercials. It's a 60 and a 30, all
Right.
based on the same brief. But the amount of thought and the amount of planning that's gone into this to make sure that everything's on point it's appropriate. But I don't think
Right.
a lot of people realize how appropriate that is.
Sure.
And how you'll watch a finished spot and you'll say, That's a real commercial. That was cool. Or hopefully it gave you goosebumps. Hopefully it evoked what we're going after of this empowerment. And I can do something with myself, and that's a place I should do it at. But to get to that amount of understanding,
Yeah.
it took a whole heck of a lot of probing for us to feel confident that we're doing this the right way.
Speaking of pieces that give you goosebumps, have you seen this piece that's running around with Microsoft did called Make What's Next? They did this great piece, and it's basically all these girls. You've seen this done before with Dove or whatever, but they're these young girls who are tasked with they're being asked, can you name a female inventor? And they don't. They all name Albert Einstein and Tesla and all this sort of stuff. And basically, they're making the point that, hey, how come we don't highlight any of the female inventors?
Yeah,
And
I have seen that.
and here's these, young girls who are impressionable and the world's, run by men or whatever. And then all of a sudden it takes this harsh shift. Musically, it just blows up and it shows a list of all these female inventors and all these really cool things they invented. And then it goes back to the girls, and it's a really powerful piece. And anyway, it's great, but the music is what makes it even over the top. The content is great. The story is great, but when the music comes together, it really just becomes this emotional thing that, you're just like, man, this is a great piece of content. That it's, it's not like it's not shot, unbelievably. I mean, it's shot well, but it's not like some big budget thing. It's like more documentary style, but you check it out. It's Make What's Next. Look for Microsoft Make What's Next ad campaign and check it out. It's a great little sort of doc-style branded content piece that is great. But that music track, I think you'll like.
It tells you where. I mean, that's our job isn't to let's reinforce what. Yeah, you reinforce kind of where you want the story to go, but more often than not, you're just telling somebody what to feel.
Yeah.
If you do it well, if the story aligns with where you're at, then you can get your goosebumps.
Yeah.
You can get your tears. If the story flies organically with the music telling someone to get there. I mean, if I'm telling you to be scared right now, nothing's scary. It's just going to come off like The Naked Gun or something where everything's kind of juxtaposed. Yeah. So, when it organically top to tail, this whole project has been top to bottom, everyone organically aligned, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it doesn't mean everybody was yes men. I mean, we had points of contention, disagreements, but it all kind of.
But even honestly, when it came to the pitch, when it came to nobody was stepping up to say we're something we're not. It was just a very honest. It was one of those things that everyone got up and I said when we talked about it early on was, if they don't pick us, I'm fine with it because we showed them exactly who we are.
Right.
And if they do pick us, that's great because they're getting exactly who we are.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where those moments where you can just kind of sigh and go, this is good.
Yeah.
This is good one way or the other. If we don't get the job,
Yep.
I'll be disappointed. But it wasn't for us at that point because it was so
Yeah.
well communicated.
And I think too that the thing that's interesting that I'm seeing in post at this point now is when all that stuff is done right on the front end,
oh yeah.
everything goes well on the back end.
No, then where's the wood? Because we have a tracking session. There we go. We'll knock there. But yeah, you're right because it's the expectations have been set appropriately. Everyone has been doing this long enough that they understand when they should raise a flag.
Yeah.
And go, oh wait, this is kind of weird, guys. Let's solve this real quick. And everyone kind of understands that in their own world, and so they have the experience to get through it responsibly. And then to deliver on that promise, it's my moment now to step up and bring it today.
So excited yesterday when I saw the big email come in from Whipster with the big green approved button, and it was that's the email you get when we use Whipster, and when they approve a project, you get the big approval button, and
so your picture locked.
Yeah, it got emailed in, and we are picture color locked, the whole deal. And I was so pumped to see that, and it made me think of the Whipster kids over there. So, as you guys know, this month is being brought to you by Whipster. Then they have great tools for collaboration. So all through the post, we've been, using Whipster with the clients to, be able to show some changes and versioning and those sorts of things. And it's been great. And so thanks, guys, for supporting the show, as always. And just as a side note, while we're here, if you have not entered yet, this month's FDB giveaway is with Whipster, and they're going to give away a team account.
Nice.
So it's worth $500. It's awesome.
Am I eligible for it?
No, you're not eligible. It's insider trading. And so all you have to do is connect on Twitter, shout out to @Whipsters, WIPSTERS, @FDB Podcast, use the hashtag FDB giveaway, and say something, exciting or nice or mean or whatever you want to do. But if you do those three things, mention the two of us and the hashtag, you'll be entered to win the monthly drawing. So pretty exciting stuff. Really cool stuff happening with this project, other projects we got going on. But I want to talk to you about something that no one knows about. Super novel thing that's happening here at Sound Image Studio. We can't specifically talk about it, but did you guys get a confirmation? Because I was told you had a confirmation that a major Hollywood film or a Hollywood film is coming to town, and they were scouting the control room and potentially want to use it, which would mean that you would have to reassemble your original console. Is this? Tell me about this story.
Oh yeah, well it's not. I mean, yes, we gotta think what I'm allowed to say here. Yes, there will be a film filming in here. And they honestly...
Some sort of music-related thing.
Yeah, we've got a strong film commission in Cincinnati. Ohio has very strong film tax credits, and they're about to get stronger to pretty much rival Georgia.
Yep, and people want to film here.
People want to film here. We look like 50s New York.
Yeah.
We've got some diversity. There's Kristen, we had Kristen on the show, so.
But specifically talking about you guys have you got a cool studio vibe. Describe Studio A. Describe Sound Images. It's been here for a while. It's got a cool history.
Yeah, I mean, so
why would somebody want Studio A?
Studio A. Oh God, I don't even know the square foot in the place, but but it's a bigger room. Right, and it's a controlled room. It is a big studio space. It's not many people have things like this. So it's built right, no parallel walls.
Well, not only that, but it's like the iconic studio that you think of in your head when you think of recording studio.
Yeah.
It's like iconic,
So it was built in '86, and the walls have changed colors since then. I think we've changed out the fabric on the soft walls, but. It looks it's straight up. You could strip the new monitors off the stands, and you could strip that stuff out and be right back to
85.
Yeah, exactly. And we still have like glossies laying around. I have slides in my office of the original like professional photography of Studio A. And there's been things I changed. There was the producer's desk behind the console used to be this like pink. So it was like this pop pink desk, and I walked in. Day one, you walk into a job anyway, and you're just excited to be there. And like a few months later, I walked in. I'm like, there's a pink desk in here. Like, what is up with it? So over time, eventually got to the point where I matched the color of that to the console. But it's an MCI, so it's like got this like gunmetal brown.
Yeah.
So it's a cool thing now. But yeah, so there's a film, and so the film commission is literally just, it's 4 stories above us. And we're, on their list of vendors anyway, so we do a lot of the ADR when the actors are in town. We'll do that work for the films that were filmed here. But the needing to film in our space has happened a few times.
Sure.
But a lot of times they're looking for a very specific console, or they're looking for a very, their specific needs. Miles Ahead, we did a ton of work for Don Cheadle's film on the ADR side. And as well as we operated as a space that all the bands could come and work on their production for the film, because they actually performed in the film. So they would actually get together and have to learn the pieces, and because you're putting together jazz combos of guys who may or may not have played together, but like again, a testament to Cincinnati's music scene or jazz scene, even to say we could assemble 8 amazing jazz combos who like fit the period of your film to play with Miles Davis. Awesome. So they came in. That was a wonderful day, right? To just have jazz combo after jazz combo come in and work with the music director to put together pieces. It was awesome. But not often do they come in and say, we want to like use this space. So what I've done in Studio A is there was a Sony MCI console when I got here, and it wasn't the cleanest sounding board, and that's an issue. Especially when you need to do some squeaky clean broadcast stuff. So I removed channels 9 through 36 and put in their place a controller for Pro Tools. But I still have channels 1 through 8 in there that still function. And so I made like my Franken console, because that's what we could do with where we were at the time. But what that also means is when someone comes in and needs a film there, you need to take everything apart, put everything back together, and you're down for that amount of time. So I know studio, it's black. I won't be able to touch, and you want to talk about like anxiety of not being able to go in and do an update like in your A room. That is anxiety. To know that someone else is in there, you're locked out, and that anything you do is going to be in your B room. It'll work just fine. But man, my happy place is one place, and to know my happy place is not going to be there. I'm just hoping that when they do come in and film, they don't look at me and go, the back of your head looks really good. You should play the engineer's role. But yeah, they'll be here. I think contracts got signed. If not, these things are fluid.
Sure,
it's a film. Things show up, things go away.
Well, that's kind of cool. That's kind of fun.
Delayed by a year or whatever.
Sure.
But so we'll see. Timeline now, I think it got pushed a little bit, but yeah, we'll see.
It's an interesting revenue source for you.
Believe me, if I could tell the story of places of jobs and or 2 truths and a lie, or is it 2 lies and a truth, 2 truths and a lie? Yeah. Regardless, I could be mind numbing playing that game, depending on with the stories that have come just through this place and its history.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it should be cool. That being said, they come in, so
yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, that's fun. There's a lot of really cool things happening. We're really excited about. We have booked and confirmed show partners throughout the rest of the year.
Whoa!
So every single month there'll be a new show partner throughout the end of 2016. Every single one of them are giving away the equivalent of these great giveaways that have been, ranging from $350 to $600 giveaways.
That's awesome.
So everything from the team account from Whipster, and then coming in the future, we got some really cool, some camera accessory gear, some packs, some cases, stuff that filmmakers really, I think, would enjoy and need for their kit. So that's really cool that we're able to do that, and we've got some good bourbon partners that are in the hopper, and some more that we're waiting to hear back from. So a lot of really cool things happening on the show. Obviously, sounds like a lot of cool things happening here around sound images.
It's trouble keeping up.
And one of the things we'll talk about with people is we just had a discussion earlier, me, you, and Bart. So me and Alex basically made the decision, and after talking to some people on the Slack group. So by the way, get in on the Slack group. There's over 36 people in there now, and everybody's having a great conversation. Today we had one of our first Slack meetups. It was at 2:00 today, and just some great great film talk going on. So go to the website at ftbpodcast.com. Look for the links for Slack. Find out how to sign up. It'll email us, and we will add you to it if you indeed are a filmmaker. If you are not a filmmaker, and we can sniff that out pretty easily, we're probably just not going to add you. So this is a vetted community, but it's a great one. But the feedback was everybody said, you know what, hey, chances are they listened to the podcast on the way to and from set anyway. They weren't too disappointed without the video. But then I got to thinking, if we didn't have to edit it, if we didn't have to compress the video, if we didn't have to do any of that, maybe we could do something like that. And so now we are considering, which could be really fun, live streaming the tapings of the podcast. So we always put the show out on Fridays, but sometimes we record on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday. Usually it's one of those 3 days. Typically it's between 3:30 or a 4:30 taping. And we thought, well, hey, we've got this Slack community of people who can get on real time and have conversations. If we stream it with live stream or anything like that, then we could stream the show and people could watch the show in real time while also interacting with us while we're taping it through the Slack group. And we thought, how cool would that be to really create some sort of interesting interactivity, and it would sort of, give it a place for those who are really involved. If you're involved enough to get on the Slack group, you are a real listener. You're really, not that if you're not in the Slack group, you're not a real listener. But that's not what I meant. Sorry. That's not what I meant. What I meant was if you're that involved, then you're probably that interested to join in when we tape the show versus just listening, sort of casually. Yeah. So we're going to look into it, but I think it might happen. We found a little live stream is pre-ordering now for this little doodad that we're going to look into. So we might be reaching out to you guys over at Livestream.
At the same time, if anybody knows of good solutions out
Absolutely.
there that you guys have used, reach out.
Hit us up.
Yeah.
Yep. Join the Slack group and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But the goal here is, again, we just think there's some cool things happening around these conversations in Slack, on Twitter, on Instagram, and just it's neat to see this thing evolve from where it started a year ago.
It'd be nice to have to react to what people have to say live.
Yeah.
And be on our toes a little bit. And actually see how the bourbon affects our ability to answer questions.
Yeah. So a lot of fun stuff happening. It's been a great month with Whipster. If you have not checked them out, go to Whipster.io or Whipster.com. Check out their solutions for video review. They're all about removing the tension away from that process and really making it easy for people. Just great friends of the show. We love those guys and girls down in New Zealand, always making cool stuff, and we appreciate you guys so much. So check them out. As always, check out our friends Adam, Bart, and the rest of the crew here at Sound Images Studios. They're doing some really cool stuff. Always check in on that. We'll see you next week, and hopefully have some more stories for you, and we'll hear what Alex has been up to.
Yeah.
He's
that guy's been buried.
He's been shooting holiday videos.
Yeah.
So interesting stuff. So anyway, it's been great. Yeah. Good to catch up, bud.
Yeah, it was good. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. This podcast was recorded live at Sound Images Studio. Find out more at soundimages.com.